smooth on these singy-songy intros. What's up, everybody? It is a Tuesday. This is the WrestleZone wrap-up coming to you on Facebook, YouTube, and in your ears on the podcast feed. If you haven't done already, go and subscribe on whatever channel works for you. If you're a Facebook person, we have so many people that are Facebook peoples. You can watch our shows. Go to Facebook Watch. You can watch us on your TV. It's pretty cool now if you want to do that. YouTube, go and subscribe to the channel. Make sure your notifications are on. Hit like so we can defeat those algorithms, so people can avoid clips of riots and disturbing real life things for this fun fake fighting world that we talk about all the time with pro wrestling. All right. And on this episode, you can see on screen if you're watching, ask us anything. We'll get into an ask anything. That'll be a big chunk of the show. And if you're watching now, your question will get on screen if you stick around. All right. So don't worry about that. We'll get to that sooner than you think. Also, we have prizes. Colin Tessier of WrestleZone.com. We have prizes. Do you want to see what the prizes are?
Kevin, you there they are, the action figures. Best prize of all.
Don't worry, they just fell off the chair I have. All right, so we've been talking about this all month. I talked on our most recent Raw show that we would do a thing where you could email in. That's a little confusing. You're going to go to our Twitter. We're going to post it on our Twitter. We'll have a link on our Twitter this week. So for you hardcore fans of the wrap-up who actually listen to consumer content, you guys will have the first clue on this. Okay, to win this, Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan, Elite action figures. We send these out before the end of the month, and you'll be able to win them through our Twitter and our other socials. Not the email thing I was talking about. A little bit too confusing. Don't want to make it too hard for you. But you guys will be able to win these before the end of the month, so keep your eye on that. If you're just watching our show for the first time, how are you going to do it? Just keep listening. We'll tell you. You'll win them before the end of the month. So let's get into what's going on in the news of the day. Colin, Monday Night Raw. It was a pretty strong show considering the sad news with the WWE champion getting COVID. Drew McIntyre. They had him film stuff from home. Seems like he's going to be all right, but you hope it's not an issue. He's asymptomatic at the moment. The Raw rating in getting a 1.89 million. So a little bit of a drop, not severe, but you're up against the College Bowl championship game, right?
Right. I mean, that's kind of the big takeaway here. It's like you see the headline on paper. It's like, oh, the viewership's down. I think it was 300,000. It's like, whoa, like 300,000 viewers. But it's the national college football game. Pretty much every football fan in America is going to be watching that. Even like casual fans, people just like that want to see a good sports contests are going to tune in, and they're two big schools. That's a big game. It's kind of even more than your normal Monday Night Football game. Like that's a big opponent in the ratings. And so and even beyond that, like Raw didn't really have a lot announced going in. There was some intrigue about how they'd handle the McIntyre diagnosis.
We had Drew versus Randy, but it was a match that people have seen quite a bit this year.
Exactly.
And it was still feel like we're not like right on top of the Royal Rumble. We had that hot week last week with Goldberg and Drew McIntyre, which even if that aggravated people, guess what? You were talking about it. Like a lot of people were talking about that. And I can tell you that the previous week's Raw trended well into the early morning hours of the following Tuesday. Usually it's kind of done by about midnight Central Time. It was trending well into like 2, 3 a.m. Like looking at analytics. I was like, oh, that means international people are finding out about this and they're talking about it too. But this week's show, you're up against College Bowl championship. Put it into perspective here. This is how much of a bump back they got. Normally, they would have 3 to 4 different slots in terms of the 18 to 49 demo. In the top 15, top 10. They had 7, 12, and 16 in the top 20 on cable for that demographic. ESPN had the first 6 slots. So there's a lot of people betting on this game. There's a lot of people watching this game. This is a consequential football game. It's a championship game. And it's not on a Sunday. It's on a Monday. So they took a hit, but not as bad as you think, and still up from some of the better, the worst shows that they've had earlier, a few months ago. So fairly strong, 1.89 million. This is their lowest right now for the month. I expect this number to go up before Royal Rumble.
Yeah, I mean, like I think the Royal Rumble always. I think it can bring some people back. Where a lot of casual fans kind of want to know who's going to win the Rumble, who's looking strong. The Royal Rumble is one of those events where it just does bring a lot of those, less hardcore viewers, but more just kind of general WWE fans back in, not just for the pay-per-view, but for the lead up. So I too would expect the numbers to kind of go up even a little bit in the weeks to come.
Yeah. Let's see what fans are thinking about last week's Monday Night Raw. I enjoyed it. I thought it was rolling with the punches. I've seen better episodes of Monday Night Raw. I think it's fair to say, and there was a lot of people didn't get used on the show. So there was some fear, people knee-jerk reactions like, well, that means they have COVID because they're true. No, let's not rush to that, everybody. Let's not do that. Let's see what your takes are here on Monday Night Raw coming off of it. Other people, Terrell Dick saying Raw was not a bad show. Enjoyed it. He was into it. And Jay Feliciano saying history was made last night. Triple H first ever water spit in front of no fans. There was no fans there for the water spit. And other people commenting about Lacey Evans. Lacey Evans getting into it. What do you think of the Lacey Evans angle? Trying to refer to Ric Flair as her daddy. That is something that she's now putting out there. She's played up this angle. She had a singles match with Charlotte Flair. Ric Flair costing his daughter the match, interfering several times. This is a follow-up from the previous week. Charlotte Flair and her dad, her Playboy father, who's been, I don't know how many times married. We had many ridiculous jokes last night with Robert DeFelice in the podcast. If you've not listened to it, Robert really went deep on the Space Mountain sex humor, and it was ridiculous. And I think if you're a longtime Ric Flair fan, you can appreciate it. I can see that it's already getting to Colin, and we're giggling like 15-year-old boys that just started to learn Google. So what did you think of the Lacey Evans angle with Charlotte Flair? I saw a lot more people talking about it this morning than even last night as it kind of gets digested here.
I mean, I'm still digesting it myself. I remember last week I wasn't really thrilled with kind of the direction they were going, where you could kind of tell, it didn't necessarily seem like this one-off thing with Lacey and Rick and Charlotte there. And then last night, kind of really took things a step further with Rick and Lacey, and now they're together, and Rick cost Charlotte the match, and then backstage, Lacey was saying, "Oh, we're going to go to the hotel." So they're going with it. But I tweeted last night. I was like, I have to admit, I kind of wanted to see. I wanted to see Lacey and Rick kind of go in that direction, only because it's interesting, right? That was kind of the
it is not interesting, But we have
Kevin. Come on, you don't want to see Lacey and Ric Flair and their daughter
weird.
In a weird triangle.
It's weird. It's weird in like a Jerry Springer type way, where it's just like, I wouldn't call it inappropriate, but it's just not something you expect. So It just throws that curve at you of like, are they a pair? Iridia Fierro, big friend of the show. Hey, Rest Friend. Check out her content there. It's very, very good stuff. We've had her on before. She goes, I hate it. Please stop with the Lacey storyline. They better not have a wedding.
Can you imagine if they had a wedding? Oh my gosh.
Would not be Ric Flair's first wedding. It would not be Ric Flair's first wedding. Whether kayfabe or real, it would not be Ric Flair's first wedding.
That'd be something.
So Charlotte, just want to let you know, Charlotte, woo, me and Lacey are making it happen. Because some people not feeling it. And Saul Sultan is always with us. Thank you so much, Saul. Always with the show. He goes, the Lacey versus Charlotte would be funny storyline if Lacey and Charlotte were sisters. No, it would not. That would not be. That would be even worse. That would be even worse. So we also got some hype, even though he's on the shelf. We got some hype here with Drew versus Goldberg. Now, Drew has this COVID-19 situation. They filmed 2 different at-home promos with him. One where he talks openly about having COVID, which I thought was a refreshing thing for WWE to do. They've had some of their talent say they have it. Some people don't, and then say it much further after the fact they've done it. WWE has acknowledged it. And some people say, oh, WWE's not saying it on TV, so it doesn't matter. I was like, that's just wishy-washy. It depends on how you want to approach it. I think also you're dealing with people's personal health. That isn't you are not privy to that information if people don't want you to know it. All right. So there's that too, because they have families and all those other things. But he puts it out there. He chooses to, tells people to do the right thing. But then also accepts Goldberg's challenge. So we're in week 2 of Drew versus Goldberg. And they cut this video last night where they kept talking about all these things that Goldberg has done, but he hasn't won the WWE Championship. There are a lot of fans that are angry at Goldberg being the privileged featured legend who gets to come in and get these big paydays and these big matches, and people don't like the matches, and they really don't like Goldberg. I've never seen a more vitriolic response to a superstar who returns now and then. And I mean, that people are returning superstar, people get excited, right? This, not the case. They get mad. They care. Maybe there's an excitement in getting mad, but they get mad, and it is a big response. I would say more people are mad about Goldberg than they are about their favorite wrestler and how much they love them. I'll put it that way. Here we are, week 2. Are you thinking Goldberg gets the belt? Where would this go? Where would this go? We're a couple weeks out because the time frame, if Drew is fine, could have him back on TV that Monday right before the Royal Rumble.
Well, it's interesting because I think Drew testing positive at least kind of throws a bit of a monkey wrench into my expectations for this match, I guess. Because I guess last week I was a little divided in the sense that, I didn't really expect Goldberg to win. Although obviously your thought kind of goes to like, oh no, we're gonna have Goldberg win because that's what WWE does, and then who even knows what's gonna happen next. But now I'm like, I don't expect Goldberg to win because in my mind, I struggle to see where they would go from there, because you've got maybe Goldberg and Randy, because that's one direction that would make sense, but otherwise I struggle to kind of connect the dots there leading up to WrestleMania. And a lot of people thought that Roman Reigns and Goldberg would happen, and if Goldberg wins that match, I don't necessarily see that happening. And although it still could, I just don't know. I would be very surprised.
But also, like, what position is Goldberg in for a match with Roman Reigns if Drew gets through him? Mind you, I think they'll have a match, but Goldberg is not a go out there and have a barn burner 30-minute, 20-minute match. He's your signature go in there, have a car crash, fun all over the place, physicality, not a hardcore match, but like that match he had with Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, the second one, not the first one, the one they did first few years, that cleaned it up. That was a great, fun, fast match and perfectly did everything it was supposed to do. Probably one of the best matches in Goldberg's career. So with Drew, he comes in there though with the sins of the Fiend thing, where fans poo-pooed on that, and he came in and wrecked the Fiend's momentum, and that match with Undertaker the fans didn't like, right? So they're still thinking of those things, right? And so he comes in and now he's going to take out Drew, who's been working his ass off during the pandemic and being your champion, and you're going to do that with him now. I think this whole COVID thing, whether or not people like it, is going to babyface Drew. He's going to come in, he's going to be babyfaced in this thing. And I wonder what physical limitations it could have on him. Is he going to be 100%? We heard from Matt Jackson, an athlete, a wrestler with AEW. He dealt with it. Coming back, he said it deeply affected his cardio. So are we going to have an issue here with Drew McIntyre when he comes back? I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. All right. I'm not a wrestling doctor either. All right. I'm a dork with a backdrop in his apartment. I think they can do something here. I wonder what the match is going to be like. If they take the title off Drew, there's going to be a really, really harsh reaction from fans. And if they do take the title off Drew, are you gonna have Goldberg do heelish stuff to get it? Like, that's the weird thing. I think Goldberg can be sort of heely just naturally. He's like, I came back, I want the belt. So
that's what it seems like.
But I also think, is Drew in a position coming out of this to, for lack of a better phrase, carry this match? I don't know. It's certainly interesting though. It has marquee value. It's the new big name with Goldberg, who's still a big name. And this is the time of year when casual fans are going to tune in. We watch every week and we consume it almost by the hour. What's the new thing? What's the new thing? For casual fans, this could be something where they're like, coming out of football season. It's that Sunday that's going to be pivoted, between football stuff. That's why Raw number went up last week. That's why they positioned it to go up. First Monday without it. They're playing to casuals. That's why Goldberg's there. And Drew McIntyre is becoming, hopefully at some point, that guy who's in that rarefied air of a household name. He's not there yet. Is Goldberg going to get him there? Don't know yet. So other people chiming in with their thoughts, saying Saul, he always has his AARP card with him. Goldberg, okay, I get it. His goatee is gray. I get what you're going for there. Julie texting in for the first time. Julie, first time seeing you in here. And if you're watching for the first time, get your comments on screen with this. Julie says Goldberg winning is useless. Giving Goldberg a new opponent and let McIntyre interfere and cost Goldberg the match and say, oops, my test was false positive. No, Julie, I don't think we're going to go with Drew McIntyre doing a false positive COVID-19 kayfabe angle. I don't think we can play that angle up, and a little testy. Do you think they're going to play up the COVID-19 thing at all?
No.
The thing is, they've said it on TV. I'm not saying they will. I'm not saying they will.
That is the farthest they'll go, because like it took a lot of people by surprise, just the fact that in January
that they acknowledged it at all.
That they even said it. Right.
Yeah.
So
because they could have done at-home film promos and stuff like that for a couple weeks and not said anything.
The most I could see would be the broadcast team saying something in the lines of Drew's here, he's recovered, so he's a strong champion. But
I think they'll reference it in that way, and maybe he could play into the match a little bit, but I don't think it'll be overstated. It'll be something where if you're watching and you've been watching, we're saying this, but we're not throwing it in your face.
Yeah.
And I think because fans are going to think that way anyway. Fans are going to think this is a part of the angle anyway, even if they don't want to, because we know it's real, and the real things make for great stories. But for some people, it's a little bit too much, right? So
one thing
I'm not off the roads with it here. Giorgio Reyes, big friend of the show. Thank you so much, Giorgio. Says Goldberg. Am I right, Kevin? Goldberg. What's the worst Goldberg online humor that you've seen? Goldberg is like the go-to, right?
That's right, yeah.
But the memes on Goldberg are pretty bad. The worst one I saw was someone saying Goldberg is the type of guy who would wear those old white Ked shoes, like he has Skechers, like he wears like dad sneakers on and stuff like that. I don't know which ones you've seen yet. So definitely people saying DJ Cass here saying we're gonna have Goldberg versus Adam Pearce in a Survivor Series match. That's right. They're taking the belts. They're taking the belts off the two young studs. They're gonna have them
all year.
Yeah, it's gonna be two ball guys with goatees taking on each other. They're gonna keep the belts until a year. It's gonna be all Goldberg and Adam Pearce running the whole WWE. Something makes me think that's not going to happen at all. Outside of WWE, you are our main guy on Ring of Honor. I do want to touch on Ring of Honor. We're going to get to your questions in a little bit. A majority of the rest of the show is just going to be your questions. So your questions about what's going on with WWE in 2021, what's going on with the Royal Rumble, what's going on with AEW. Get them ready. We're gonna touch on those in a few minutes. We have a couple of small little bites we want to grab and do before we do a big Ask WrestleZone anything here. But I do want to talk to you about Ring of Honor. Where are they in 2021? The big news last week, Marty Scurll no longer with the company, and that has cleared up a certain cloud that's been hanging over the company. You do the recap of Honor show. You do all of our coverage. How are they pivoting in the pandemic?
I mean, Ring of Honor has done such a great... I'm biased, obviously, but Ring of Honor has done such a great job, especially, I think, compared to a bunch of... the other companies particularly, but they shut down for a bit, did the, I guess even you could say overly responsible thing of just really kind of going dark and just doing like best of shows on the weekly program, not filming live content. And then they kind of shut down until the fall. Then they came back to the Pure tournament, and that really impressed a lot of people. Where these matches were it's really good pure technical wrestling matches. Then they had their first pay-per-view back at Final Battle. And that was really just a good kind of showing to kind of, I guess, fully return in a sense, beyond just the weekly show. You got Mike Bennett coming back. That was a big get for them. And then it's only January 12th, and they've already, the Ring of Honor has already re-signed a bunch of people on top of letting parting ways with Marty Scurll. They re-signed Bandito, one of the best Mexican luchador wrestlers in the world, in my opinion. Tracy Williams, fantastic peer wrestler. Mark Haskins, great British wrestler. All these people really locking them down, setting themselves up for success. But now a big uncertain situation. A bunch of your comments and you guys in the comments are wondering. Dalton Castle, former world champion, is a free agent, and Ring of Honor has reportedly offered him a contract, but he could easily go
signed. He hasn't signed it
He has
yet.
not signed. I believe I saw they offered him one, but he has not signed. He is a free agent. Saul Sultan wondering if we could see the villain in the AEW, and we had Nando, our friend, saying, "What about Dalton Castle in WWE?" I mean, in that case, that Ring of Honor would lose two of their biggest stars.
But
obviously,
that's been Ring of Honor's thing forever.
Yes.
Like, and this isn't like a dismissing Ring of Honor thing. I'm saying this as, in the terms of some people in this room, maybe even with you, Colin, an OG. I'm talking about going back to the first time they got out of the East Coast. I saw them in Chicago, and that time it was Samoa Joe, Punk, Colt Cabana, the Briscoes, who are still there. Briscoes are like the franchise act, I think, of
Right.
but it's always been the position they're in, almost like TNA, where it's just like it's a matter of time before these guys that are big here that WWE wants to sweep in and get them. Or now you can talk about All Elite wanting to come in and get them, because look how much All Elite basically is Ring of Honor guys with a bigger budget, right?
Yeah.
Or at least it's built, its
Right,
core is built around that, and mixture of other things. But it's always been the protocol with them. And Dalton, like, got to be world champion. He did the pure tournament and had some showings there. But I think he's one of those guys where, yeah, I do think he would be in a better spot, at least trying something else. And I'm not saying WWE, but like another promotion, an Impact, maybe something in Japan, you know. So what do you think here? I mean, with Dalton, I think go ahead, give it a shot in WWE if WWE's looking at you. But also, Dalton's had a lot of serious injuries that have affected how he wrestles now, and definitely he's not the same wrestler he was, I want to say, 5 or 6 years ago. But he's adapted really well, and he's also not a finesse wrestler. He stands out in Ring of Honor as being charisma first, even though he has a legitimate wrestling background to back it up. He has the skills and all those different things that ROH is sports heavy. He's character heavy. He's an exception to it. And that's what makes me think him being a really appealing pickup for WWE, wherever they would want to use him if they want to pick him up, or an AEW. If you're Dalton, what do you do?
I mean, it's a win-win for Dalton Castle, really, where if you stay in Ring of Honor, on paper at least, you know, he's one of their top stars. He's one of the most, I would say, charismatic guys on the roster, one of the most recognizable names on the roster. So in theory, he would thrive there. But at the same time, you just said, Kevin, you know, he is someone who has had those injuries, and if he is a free agent now, it might be time for him to give it a shot. To get, I mean, I think I was talking with Bill about it, and Bill said he could fit in an Impact, and Sal Sultan said that as well. They could use him, obviously, as someone of his caliber, could definitely do well there. Not sure if I necessarily see him in AEW, given that, and in some ways, AEW has signed a lot of people and hasn't exactly found the right niche for them or the right role for them.
Well, also AEW is like what they're still a very, you know what I mean? They're still a very young company.
Yeah.
And I think they're still trying to figure out their way to do secondary content off of Dynamite. They have BTE is a comedy show that's online. Dark is we got all these wrestlers that want to come out and try it for us. Let's film it, you know, and do maybe one or two like legit matches and stuff like that. They're still figuring all those things out. So they get the benefit of the doubt, double standard, whatever you want to say. I think if they had a more defined secondary show that wasn't Dynamite, because Dark, I'll say it doesn't feel like a defined show. It just feels like a showcase, for a better lack of a term. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a comedian. Showcases are like a ton of comics on one show, not just like one big comic and maybe one opening act. Showcases are a ton of little tiny things, you know? So, and that's fine, because that's what AEW has right now. But I think that's weighing for them. Whereas Ring of Honor, you tune around the show, you get 3 or 4 bangers, and here are the guys, and here's what we're doing, and we're building up these people. It's a bit more centered, and I think that comes from their years of having a roster, and they know exactly what it is, top to bottom. AEW knows where they are from the middle up. I don't think they know where they are from the like near the bottom. It's much more gray there for them.
Yeah.
With what's other big things going on with Ring of Honor? Where do you see the title situation going on with them? I hear some people saying they would love to see some new stars get to the top of the card with ROH. Do you see a big change for them in 2021 in that regard?
I mean, one thing that was kind of in the rumor mill back around Final Battle was that the world champion Rush might be leaving, but I think he's planning on staying at least for the short-term future. So that's kind of a big development for them.
He hasn't officially signed. I know they kind of went on a signing spree recently. Like,
yeah, not officially. I think that's kind of, I heard that was the direction, like in the rumor mill, not speculating. I just heard that he I guess was leaning towards resigning. If that is the case, I I mean, he's held even though you factor in the pandemic, he's held the title since last February. So he could drop it at any time. They kind of set up that Shane Taylor, pretty popular guy from the Cleveland scene, might be challenging him sooner rather than later. That could be a nice kind of slugfest between these two, like, legit tough guys. And I think a lot of people would like to see that. Just today, Ring of Honor released the rankings for the Pure Championship and for the World Television Championship. Dragon Lee is someone that I'm keeping an eye on. He's been doing great work in New Japan. Unfortunately, I do see him being one of those guys that's probably, his destiny will be outside of Ring of Honor because he is just that talented. I think he could either go to New Japan full time, or even if he does wind up in AEW or somewhere else, he's very, very, very talented. So maybe he'll be dropping the title at some point soon. But Jonathan Gresham, in my mind, pound for pound, best technical wrestler in the world, really doing a great job at the Pure Championship. I think he'll be carrying that title for quite a while because he just won the tournament for it, at the end of last year, obviously. So I think that'll be a nice way to kind of just bring the pure wrestling back. That really seems to be the focus for Ring of Honor. That's something that that tournament really kind of brought to the forefront, and I think we'll continue.
Well, I would hope so. You put all this time into it. You know what I mean? I would hope you keep it going. So I do think they've pivoted as best they could, with things here. I mean, because they were such a brand that's so driven by that hardcore audience, and they don't have an audience. But I also want to applaud ROH for their bubble approach. They took the same approach that the NBA did with that first round of that first season they played, within the bubble of, we're going to lock everyone into the Baltimore area. We're going to test everybody like crazy. And we're going to tape everything we can as quickly as you can. The thing is, you do those, we're going to tape multiple matches from people over a short period of time. That's a brutal, grueling schedule in such a short period of time. And also the Ring of Honor style demands you can't just have a short little match and here's your finisher and we're done. No, this is still Ring of Honor, smash mouth stuff with no people to respond to it. So I applaud Ring of Honor. If you're feeling like you're burned out on other things and you want something that's a little bit more straight, Ring of Honor is the steak of wrestling.
I couldn't recommend it enough.
And I mean that in the best way possible. Like, you don't want anything. You want it straight up, in your face, legit, sports-oriented wrestling. This is it. It's the closest thing to New Japan in the United States in terms of, and mind you, New Japan's now producing, they have the USA division they're doing. They have their own, the Strong Dojo, right? So for me, though, it's so underrated so many times. And I think so many people have written it off recently with AEW coming up. Impact is sort of on a rise. I really think ROH doesn't get their justice. They don't get the proper recognition. Is that correct?
No,
is that correct? Yeah, I don't think that's fair.
So definitely, I would say.
And you have MLW. You can throw them in the So go check out our interview, by the way, with Court Bauer recently of MLW. He talked about how losing Rouge was a big deal. Like, that was somebody he really wanted to sign. He talks kind of openly about how he now approaches talent. We're talking about people re-signing and stuff like that. More content for you guys to jump into it there with WrestleZone. Do want to mention Chris Jericho has put out a new documentary. Tell me about this. I'm a heavy metal fan. All right, I've interviewed Chris Jericho. I like some metal. I can't go to a heavy metal concert, but I can watch this. What is it? Get your questions ready. We're going to do Ask WrestleZone in just a second here. But tell me about this before we get out. I want to plug the old doc.
I've got the article up. There's an article up about it on WrestleZone on our website, so you can make sure to check that out. But reading from the direct article right now, Chris Jericho released, quote, the title, "I'm Too Old for This Shit," a brand new documentary film produced by Jericho and Nathan Mowery. "I'm Too Old for This Shit," a heavy metal fairy tale, is now available on iTunes, Amazon, and other streaming services. It's 89 minutes long. The documentary captures the unpredictable highs and lows of 80s underground fan favorite heavy metal band Siren as they reunite more than 30 years after their breakup for a special performance in Germany at the Keep It True Festival.
I'm in. I don't even know who this band is. I've never heard of this band, and that isn't a disregard. I love a good rock doc. I love a good documentary about a band or somebody trying to make it. It's a universal, triumph of the human spirit story. And a very specific heavy metal dressing. I'm on board. Denim jackets, leather jackets, bad attitudes, hitting the road in a van. Let's go. Guys quitting their day jobs to try and make it work. Really, really good stuff. There was a really strong documentary like that a couple of years ago. I can't recall the name of the band, but it was like the guy in the band became like a cook for a school or something like that, and they got like a video on MTV, and then you cut to him being like working in a cafeteria. And you're like, oh, that seems so demoralizing. But it was like, no, I get to go do that sometimes, and then I get to go do this. I was like, hell yeah, dude! Especially now with the gig economy, like going on, I was like, I wouldn't mind if someone I saw on a TV show was an Uber driver. A couple of years ago, that would be like, oh, like now it's like, yeah, it's fine. You know what I mean?
It's a different world.
I can say this. I do this job. I could be doing dog walking in a month, and I'd be okay with it. Like a couple of years ago, might be sad. I'm all right with it, but I like to come up on it. Are you ready to jump into questions, Colin?
Let's go for it.
Do want to mention SmackDown Double Down. So we have the WrestleZone wrap-ups, and I do the pay-per-view post shows. I do Raw, I do AEW, NXT. We'll be doing that tomorrow as well. Big holiday smash for them. Looking forward to that. We're going to find out more about the Bullet Club here. Maybe you have a question about that. Maybe you have a question about what's going on with AEW. Get it going right now in the chat. We'll jump right in there. But tell me about SmackDown Double Down. These have been really, really fun. You're doing solo podcasts, which I do not like doing, because I think they're very, very hard to do. I need somebody to bounce the ball back and forth. But you've been doing a really great job with it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm having a blast doing the show. We had been doing it.
SmackDown to talk about too. SmackDown's like been a pretty strong show recently.
Like I've been loving it. Roman Reigns is awesome, so I love digging into that every week. But we have been doing it on Friday nights, and then kind of we made the executive decision move to Saturdays, and it just kind of that's worked pretty well for us. And yeah, it does tend to be me going solo or being joined by our good friend Bill Pritchard, our boss man Bill. But I couldn't do it, but I think I do it by myself only because sometimes you guys are just so awesome with your comments. It's like having someone else doing the show with me, like where I just kind of feed off of you guys, and it's a conversation, and it's my favorite part of doing the show. So I really do appreciate all the support you guys show to me and to the show. And I'm having a blast with it, and I hope you guys enjoy it as well, because that's my only hope is to entertain you all and to put on a good show every week. And I'm looking forward to continue to do it on a weekly basis. So make sure to check it out Saturday mornings.
We have a SmackDown related question, which kind of works here perfectly. DJ texting in says, when will we see Sonya Deville, who returned about 2 weeks ago, only in backstage promos? She returned to SmackDown, just kind of walked on. No big buildup. Had that very fun tailored suit, looking very, very different than all the other ladies in WWE. This past week, she communicated with Adam Pearce backstage, who's in the bigger angle with the whole show, which is, that was wild, right? And she seems to be like an assistant role to him in some way. Like that's where it's going. When is she going to wrestle again? We haven't seen her wrestle since SummerSlam. Obviously, she had that very, very scary, legitimate situation with a home invasion from a stalker, and that legal situation's coming out. They kind of did the loser leaves town match with her and Mandy. We weren't supposed to see her again, even though it was kind of like she's still in a contract with WWE, knew she was going to come back at some point. Is this just a soft way to reintroduce her? Do you throw her back in the mix at the Women's Royal Rumble? Do you hold off on that? I could see her being back in the match at the Rumble. What do you do with Sonya? She's coming back in the picture here.
Just looking at the way the situation has kind of unfolded here, I don't know. It doesn't seem like they're going to kind of bring her back as a full-time competitor right now. Maybe for the Rumble, but when we saw this past week on SmackDown, she did kind of take up that role for Adam Pearce as his assistant, and I got kind of this association, back in the day, what I think it was like 10 years ago, with Vicky Guerrero and Teddy Long on SmackDown. You had that general manager and assistant general manager power struggle. And I kind of see that playing out, especially now with Adam Pearce potentially challenging Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble if they do go through that match. That's more where I see Sonya Deville kind of shining, I guess, on SmackDown as a new authority figure. Potentially, if she could kind of wind up running the show. I think that's more kind of how she'll eventually get back in the ring. That could very well lead to a match after a feud or something like that. But I would be surprised if we saw her in the ring in a singles match before the Royal Rumble. I think that would be the earliest time that I would expect to see her back.
I think so too. I think the Rumble with the women, it's what, the third or fourth one we've seen now? Maybe third?
I think it's the third.
So I think there's more pressure on that to feature as many of those established names that they have And Sonya is. Sonya has a following. She was on Total Divas with that crowd. As much as the hardcore fans that don't care about that, women are going to tune in for the Women's Royal Rumble, and they're going to want to see their faves, right? And Sonya has a following, and I think she needs to be in that match. Even if she's not winning it, that'd be a great way to get her back in the picture. It's a big match with a bunch of other people, and Sonya's back in the ring, and she's fighting in some way. Maybe she abuses her executive privilege a little bit, and works it as much as she can to get herself in a good spot. I also think she can cut more compelling promos than a lot of other women right now in WWE. It's to be said. Omar says, what do you think about the way Matt Riddle is being booked recently? Well, here's the thing. Matt Riddle lost last night to Bobby Lashley and then got beat up by MVP. I was down on this. I thought Bobby Lashley and Matt Riddle recently had some really strong matches, and they were building up to their non-title matches. You got to win over Bobby Lashley. I thought they were building up to something here, and they're going to have this title match on TV. And this just felt like, let's get this done, and we're going to fight, and then MVP is going to interfere and hurt lock, and you tap out. All right, so you're a UFC guy tapping out, but you're tapping out to Bobby Lashley in this move that's really over. All right, that makes sense. And someone attacked you before the match. All right, a little bit of babyface stuff. And then MVP is also going to beat you up afterwards in dress shoes. So not great for Matt Riddle right now, but everyone says, oh, they're making him look like a dork. He's good at looking like this. He's playing a funny character who has these outlandish things to say. And he's Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He's a stoner bro. That is who he is. So they're just playing up who he is, right? I don't think that's wrong. But I do think he could have some more compelling wins. And real life things and the legal issues with him aside, hopefully those are settled and resolved and are not scary and not inappropriate. I don't want to touch on them because every time you talk about Riddle, that's something people want to talk about on a podcast. I'm not disavowing that, but he's playing a role and they're giving the ball to run with. And I think he's scoring the funny points, but is he too funny? Getting a little bit too funny. But that's nitpicky a little bit. I don't know. Maybe dial in a little bit. When the bell rings, drop the Spicoli and start kicking some ass. Maybe that's just me.
I mean, I would agree. But first, just one quick point in the comments. John M. Perillo points out this will be the fourth Women's Royal Rumble. I misspoke. I lost count there. But I'm biased because I've really not been a fan of Riddle back in NXT. He rubbed me the wrong way. Even acknowledging he's playing the character, I don't really care for it. And there has been like some funny, like actually funny things that have worked for me on Raw. Like the Bro Nuts was pretty funny. I think it was like when he teamed up with the New Day, he made a joke about
the Hardy Bros,
something like the Super Hard Bros or something like that. Yeah. Or the Positively Hard Bros. That was it. I thought that was actually really
Positively Hard Bros.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm kind of warming up to him. To Matt Riddle, I should say.
And things that were like ridiculous are getting now like, I'm looking forward to the dumb thing he gets to say this week. That's like outlandish, where he's very excited to say it. But then you kind of like, I don't want to say you write yourself into a corner, but you write yourself into this corner where, well, when you win, am I supposed to take that seriously? So it's that Santino Morella issue where it's like, it's a good thing because you're always going to be featured and you're always going to have a role and you're always going to be the character of levity. But this is Riddle. This guy is like, he got let go from the UFC and he was legitimately undefeated. Like he literally had that as his Twitter byline. Only got to get let go from the UFC undefeated because he was popping weed test stuff, right? So whatever. I don't know, but I do think he could have a big showing. He's one of those guys that maybe if you always think of those sub characters in the Royal Rumble match, 30 guys. The people that don't win the match get featured in some way. I think Riddle will have one or two things featured in the Royal Rumble. Maybe he gets to eliminate somebody. Likely he's doing some comedy thing, but we'll see. If that's his role, it's not the worst role to be in because you're on TV all the time, and that is an important role, as much as people don't think.
But he's a former, like you just said, Kevin, he's a former UFC fighter. Like this is someone that
undefeated.
He should be a legit competitor. Like last night was a great chance for Matt Riddle to like actually hold his own with Bobby Lashley to look good. I thought the match itself was good. I think it'll
be interesting, maybe coming off next week, if he continues to be a fun-loving guy, right? But drops it And it says like, oh, you just think I'm a dork, right? You're just not taking me seriously. I called you out. Didn't you see me call you out? Yeah, you came out and kicked my ass. Look, I'm here again. I think him bringing the volume down, a little bit on the goofy, but still being able to come back to it whenever he wants, I think it's doable. The duality. Giorgio says, which show do you think Rhea and Damian Priest will be on? It has been talked about for quite some time. They are on the move. Rhea Ripley was destroyed by Raquel Gonzalez. One of my favorite matches. Absolutely, probably one of the best women's matches of the month so far. Maybe until we get to the Women's Royal Rumble. If you have not seen it, a last women's standing match, absolutely great. She get power bombed through the platform. It was great ending. I see her on Monday Night Raw, and I see her on Monday Night Raw sometime after the Royal Rumble, maybe after this whole Charlotte Lacey Evans thing is done, and we get Charlotte and Rhea doing some business going into WrestleMania. I see Rhea in a big WrestleMania match, shaking the entire order of Monday Night Raw. Maybe Rhea and Asuka, maybe a three-way situation. I see Rhea absolutely on Monday Night Raw. Damian Priest, I think you already know about this, and we reported on it. He's showing up on SmackDown.
Actually, I thought I heard that his SmackDown, he was going to be called to SmackDown, and I think he was supposed to be part of the angle between Roman and Kevin Owens.
Yes, but Roman and Owens were like,
this just didn't work out.
We're just wedging him in.
But then after that, I thought the latest report was that he might be moving to Raw, and I think that was the kind of the last I'd heard of it. And then, but I'm not sure how that affects my answer, because I think Rhea Ripley would be really good on Raw, because Asuka wasn't even on the show last night for whatever reason. And I think that's kind of telling. Whereas on SmackDown, you've got Sasha Banks, Bayley, Bianca Belair, Carmella, a division, that just a couple months ago it seemed very thin, now is looking pretty darn good. And now Raw, kind of beyond Asuka and Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, now Raw kind of needs that somebody else to step in and be a new star there. So I could see Rhea Ripley being on Raw. Although Nando's asking, what about Rhea being kind of the Raquel Gonzalez to Dakota Kai for Bayley, being Bayley's muscle? That could be something, but I think it would make so much more sense for her to come up, be the babyface, tough, gritty babyface she is. That's kind of then more natural direction I see for her. As for Damian Priest, somebody that really has grown on me a lot in terms of his run in NXT, and I think he would do great on either show. So John M. Perillo saying maybe they both go to Raw. Maybe WWE says, well, Raw, the ratings have been suffering. Let's kind of really inject some fresh blood, fresh life into it. Send them both to Raw and really kind of just shake up the landscape completely, rather than kind of doing one per show. That's entirely possible. So maybe that'd be for the best. I've talked about it before. I cover Raw every week, and sometimes, man, it's a test. It's a 3-hour show, and it's so much of the same. So maybe you do shake it up at extensively and put both stars on there, because they would really kind of transform the whole face of the show. And I'd like to see it, but no. I guess in closing, whatever they do, I think I'll be very happy to see Ripley and Damian Priest on the main roster.
Yeah, and shakeups before WrestleMania too are challenging, because it's the biggest time of the year, and you're trying to play the casuals while also making the hardcores extra pumped. So very, very challenging time. And I also thought Raw had to pivot without Drew there, and I thought they did as good a job by smashing glass in case of Triple H.
Yeah.
So this question here: who is the masked person on WWE NXT every Wednesday? The masked, mythical, supernatural, Black Scorpion-esque character who has relaunched Xia Li and Boa. Xia Li's repackaging is awesome. I think she is great. She's been in the WWE developmental NXT system for quite some time, couple years now. And this whole angle of her having this pressure and getting these notes, and if you don't fulfill the orders of this group, you're not it was very mythical. Yes, I understand the Dark Order comparisons, but they've definitely gone a different route of Asian mysticism and this kind of cult-like cloaked figure that you do not see, who's on a throne, watching her come out to the ring this last week and have this match where she completely obliterated Katarina and had a really, really jobber match, squash, right? But it looked cool. She looked like she put on some size. She has more defined muscle. The outfit looks great. The music was cool. The look is great. I'm on board. Who is the masked person? I don't know, but I'm on board with this gimmick. I'm absolutely on board with it.
It has seemed a little, maybe a little questionable to me.
Okay.
I don't want to get into it. I think some people have had at least a little bit of a problem with kind of some of the stereotypical elements of it.
What are your issues with it? Go ahead and put it up.
I mean, it just kind of seems like your typical, like, Yakuza, or like, Chinese or Japanese kind of like gang kind of thing, or they haven't like come out and said that. It's just, it's the way that's being presented, and it's the way that's kind of, it's almost like, in some ways, it's like out of a stereotypical kung fu movie, and that's not even so much what I think, more as the kind of some of the sentiment I'm seeing around this. To me, it has been entertaining, it has been different, and again, a lot of time, if something's different and compelling, I am very much here for it and won't give it a chance, because again, we cover this every show. We're always here, absorbing it week after week after week, every darn day. And so it's good to have things that are different and fresh. So I'm here for it, and I think it's been interesting. Although it has
you don't want it to be too on the nose. You want it
to me, it's on that line, right?
Okay.
It's on the line.
I see what you're saying, and I can see where some people think, it's just too kung fu movie-esque. I can see them going in that route, but she's playing the role. She's playing the role, and she's playing it well and going for that. But I do think it was different. Reminded me of Big Trouble in Little China. If you ever seen that Kurt Russell movie where he like kind of fights this like mythical organized crime syndicate. It reminded, like, the aesthetics of it, like we're in that direction. Other questions here. We'll talk about who's going to win the Royal Rumble. We're doing that every show in January. We get that every day. For weeks we're going to get that. That's fine. What's a good one here? I'm trying to see one that pops out here. Is Eric Rowan going to be the leader of the Dark Order? As far as we know he showed up on the Brody Lee tribute show. That is just a one-off. The last we heard is that's just a one-off. We haven't heard any other developments at it. We don't know if it's for sure here. Some people that people are asking about that we do know is on the move is Jay White. So Jay White over in New Japan Pro Wrestling had a big featured match. He main evented night 2 at Wrestle Kingdom in Tokyo Dome, one of the most attended wrestling events of the last year. All right. Yes, under the circumstances we are. There were thousands of people there, safely distanced, masks, all those good things. Oh, I would love to go to a wrestling show where they tell me I can't cheer, but I have noisemakers. That another topic. But Jay White kind of put it out there. I could be done with this. We don't know his status. Some people saying he's going to WWE. There is reported interest and a heavy play by WWE again. Obviously, AEW fans would love to see him be there because they just don't want him to go to WWE, right? New Japan fans want him to stay in New Japan. Where is Jay White going?
I mean, I think I was asked this on the SmackDown show on Saturday, but and now I'm seeing that I think when the AEW is kind of coming into being, the Young Bucks kind of reached out to Jay White because they of course had the New Japan connection there, and I think he had said that he had just signed like a 7-year contract or something like that, and that may not be true, or maybe there was an option out,
or there's options within the contract for him to be able to, like, they would have to re-up him after a certain point and they have an option to do it or something like that, or this is just simply Jay White playing up stuff. But the fact that we're hearing legitimate reports, they're pretty verified, that WWE has interest in Jay White, and he should be interesting. New Zealand, different guy, unique look, proven talent, can play to the big crowds, and still fairly young. He's still a very young guy. So that means you'd be buying for the time that you would get out of him as well. Fresh matchups through the roof, with him in terms of different things you could do with him and different people you could pair him with. A lot of dream matches on the table. Him and Balor would be great. This is the first one that comes to mind. Him and Rollins would be great. Him and Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles, you could go through the roof. But those are big matches. Where does a character like that play into WWE? What's the name of him? You're not going to call him Jay White. Go to WWE, they're going to change your name or alter it. A whole bunch of different things. I think if you went to AEW, this isn't a shot at AEW. I don't think they need to sign too many new stars. I really, really don't.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think they need hot angles from the talent they already have with the people they already have. They have a lot of very fun things right now. They have great side legendary characters like a Dustin Rhodes and Sting, obviously a huge name, and different things like that. They have John Moxley, they have Chris Jericho, the big stars that jumped over him. They have Kenny Omega as the world champion. They have the Young Bucks. I don't want to say Jay White could get lost in that. He could get lost in WWE. There's some people lost in WWE. I saw a where is Aleister Black question right now. He is absolutely a guy who's lost in the shuffle right now. And that is the unfortunate circumstance of being in a big company, right? But WWE is bigger and they have more outlets for these guys too. I don't know. I would like to see him go to WWE. I think him in NXT would be great. I think he'd be a great addition to NXT. I think NXT would be the spot for someone who's a big free agent that WWE would want to sign. And if you gotta say you're at the table, I want to go to NXT because it's one place. Even if they start touring again, I'm going to stay in that one place, and I could be a guy who shifts the balance of power for them. If I'm a real player in an Impact, that's what I would do. Other people saying it's a done thing that he's going to be in NXT UK. He's going to be in WWE. It isn't done yet, guys. We've just heard chatter of it. Oh, here we go. Question about Impact. Don't mind this one. From James Espanto. Fernando. What? Colin, Big Kev. What do you see happening for them in the women's tag team tournament? I believe you're talking about the Knockouts women's tag.
No, I think he's talking about the women's Dusty Classic.
I'm sorry, the women's Dusty Classic. Yeah, no. Oh man, there's so many questions. It's kind of weird. Have they announced any teams for that just yet?
I don't think so. I think it's all up in the air at this point.
We'll find out more about that. I think we'll definitely have some teams announced this week on SmackDown and on NXT. But I see some of the women from Raw and SmackDown being involved in this. If I'm WWE, I turn this into get all the women from the different brands on NXT again, in a good way, because it gives them like trajectory and where it could be going. Everyone's in a lane. They're all going for one thing. There's a stake. But Charlotte and Asuka in this, maybe one or two matches. Great stuff. Would love it, right? Bailey in this. Sasha and Bianca Belair have been tagging recently. Them being involved in this. And that would kind of pump the number of NXT. Also, a lot of this, this from following wrestling, a lot of women who watch wrestling are watching for maybe one or two guys they like, but they're really watching for their favorite female wrestlers. That's the dialogue I get from young female wrestling fans, younger female wrestling fans, probably under 25, 30, lean towards, I love these women. These are tuning for, and maybe I'll watch the main event with the guys. And I just kind of check out in the rest. Right. And that's fine. There's stuff I tune in for that I have to follow everything, but there's certain things as a fan I like more. I think that would be something that would make them want to watch on Wednesdays. That Total Divas crowd, if you can say, we're going to give you Sasha, you're going to get your sassy, fun, kick-ass characters that you like, and we're bringing them to this show where it's already legit, but maybe you're taking a pass on it here and there. This is a way to do that, and I think it could be a very, very good thing for them. Very, very clever, though, that they're doing this as they're announcing the men's Dusty. I hope they're not concurrent. I hope
so, too.
Yeah, that they're not on top of each other, because that could get kind of confusing.
But first, I definitely think they should kind of find a way to avoid doing that, because that just sounds very redundant and a little hard to swallow. But it's hard to answer like who I see them pairing up, because I think we'll see some kind of thrown together teams or unexpected teams, or beyond some of the associations we've seen. I think obviously you've got Dakota and Raquel. I'm trying to think like Casey Catanzaro and Caden Carter or somebody.
Yeah, they've tagged before in NXT.
But so beyond that, I'm not quite sure. I'm very curious to see what happens.
The thing is, if they just go with NXT women, this isn't a shot at NXT women. I think they have a very, very strong division. It would lock up a lot of things that I think they're gonna do Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai as a team in this. They've been paired together, right? That makes sense.
Yeah.
Is that enough? That feels. I want to see someone from Raw or SmackDown come over to this thing and jump in to the mix and shake it up.
I think it would make sense to have maybe Bailey and Carmella and Sasha and Bianca participate, and then you have the winning team earn a title shot against Charlotte and Asuka. Potentially put that on NXT to bump the numbers, as you said, Kevin. Kind of draw it out like that. So you've got, 1 week you've got Sasha and Bianca to pump the numbers. 1 week you've got potentially Carmella and Bailey to pump the numbers. Followed by the title match afterwards. Put that on NXT, or even if you want to draw it out to a takeover. They just announced the takeover for Valentine's Day. So if they do draw it
which
out,
is not St. Valentine's Day Massacre. They have not announced that, and everyone just thought that
missing out.
That.
They are missing out.
They have not said that. And that was a one-time WWE pay-per-view back in the Attitude Era, because everyone wants the takeovers to constantly use the branding of something from the past. But they didn't say that, so they just didn't say it, and it's fine. Maybe not calling something a massacre in 2020.
Yeah, it was a little iffy.
Yeah, a little iffy, guys. I'm okay with it. I think you can do Valentine takeover. That's fine. It's something. Do something with hearts.
Love is in the air.
So yeah. I don't know. I'm not a marketing guy. So it's January. Royal Rumble is literally at the end of the month. We will give away these action figures. Maybe one of these men will be featured in a big match. We know Roman Reigns going to be taking on. He's going to be taking on Adam Pearce, right? Maybe Daniel Bryan's going to win the Royal Rumble. Keep following us on socials all month long. How are you going to win these? You guys in the podcast know about it first. All right, it's going to be on our socials. All right, likely you're going to be able to win these. How cool is that? So we're going to send those out before the end of the month, before Royal Rumble. So keep an eye on our socials at WrestleZone.com on Twitter. All right, also on Instagram. Keep an eye. How do you win these? We're going to let you know real soon. All right. So Royal Rumble, January. We ask it every day. If the Royal Rumble happened today, Colin, who would win the Royal Rumble? Men's and women's. Give it to me.
If I had to, on the hot seat, give me Daniel Bryan and give me Bianca Belair. Go,
I'm down for those. Yeah. I think this would be a great reminder of what Bianca Belair is. We said this at the beginning of 2020 that she was going to have this huge year, and she got called up to Raw, and that didn't happen. But I think she's had a mark that she's made, even a small one, that is growing, and she has such presence on camera. She has such presence, and you buy her athletic skills. It's completely legitimate. Her cross-country background, her track and field background. And such a look that comes off the screen. And I think that really, really matters. I think she would be an absolute great bet. She's in everyone's going to have the Royal Rumble betting pools, right? She's a pretty fair bet, guys. Like if you have those different pools are all different. You get one or two people, maybe you just have one person. She's a pretty fair bet if you're picking the women's match. Daniel Bryan winning the Royal Rumble. Please. I'm a big old D-Bry fan.
Yes, please.
Him not winning that Royal Rumble back in 2014 still stings. Now, mind you, they never even announced him for the match, but you watched that. You saw them poo on Roman Reigns when they said that Roman Reigns
out of the building
guy.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're not getting Roman Reigns versus The Rock, like everyone wants, because Roman Reigns has his uncle, and that's just been a dream match everyone's going to talk about. Rock could come back, be the baby face, take out his mean, hubris-filled cousin who's lost himself drunk in power. But you know who's not drunk on power? Daniel Bryan. You know what he's fueled by? Love, passion. Okay? All right? And I think you can go in that direction of Daniel Bryan stayed a good guy. Like, he did bad things, but he stayed a good guy. Roman, he took the apple from the serpent. He decided to and then justifies it. You decided to become this. You chose to act this way. You chose to do these things. I chose to say, no, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to try and fight this the right way. Good versus evil. All right. In this day and age, I think getting back to the fundamentals, the hits, you know what I mean? Go back to the simplicity of it. And I think that can work. And also Daniel Bryan's he's a great baby face. When you give him the right opponent, he's a great baby face. And him and Roman had some very good matches. They've had some very good. I think, was it Fastlane? I want to say like 16 or 15.
Yep.
It was before he had to retire. I remember it was before he had to retire. The first time. That would be great. And I think they can have a really great WrestleMania match. And they've also kept them away from each other. You know, they've alluded to it, but we have not seen them near each other since those matches years ago.
They had a brief little storyline in 2019 when they had like the Roman and the Rowan and everything like that.
Yeah, but that was like tag teams and stuff, right? But it was never one-on-one, and it's completely different characters now too.
Yes,
you know, so because you have this very
the
tribal chief is like a complete reboot for Roman Reigns. Complete reboot. It's a character you know, it's a guy you know, but a completely new version, completely new attitude. And yes, I feel Daniel Bryan is like, let me put it this way. With everything going on right now and not having fans, WWE is looking at who are guys that we can rely on. They may not be our biggest star. And I love Daniel Bryan. I understand that he is not the biggest star in the WWE, but he is always someone, just like you saw on Monday, when times are tough and you have this challenging situation, he is someone you can go to and he can get a great match out of anyone. He can hold any title you want him to, and fans believe it. He's the modern day Bret Hart. He's the modern day Bret Hart, where you believe everything he does because it's so centered in his character. His character is, I'm a great pro wrestler. I love pro wrestling. And to do that character, you better be really goddamn believable. And he is completely believable. All right. And Roman Reigns is now this great method actor. I think it's a great combination. I think he could be a great WrestleMania main event. And this thing with Adam Pearce is just a goofy thing to hold until he gets to be there. So Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns, WrestleMania, I'm on board. I think they can do something with it. I mean, think about it. Like we got Edge and Orton, and before that match, everyone's like, "Oh, Edge is coming back. They should do something else." They've done Edge and Orton before, but that was like one of the best storylines of the year in retrospect. So I think you can do this and make it really count, even if it's a match you've done years before. You can do a new story, and WWE is good at telling those stories in that way. Can it go south? Sure, but don't write it off before it happens. Thank you guys so much for watching the show. Hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't done it yet, hit the like button. Hit it on YouTube. Hit it on Facebook. And, I only missed some of the show. I'm just tuning in. Don't worry. You can listen to it on demand or watch it on demand. Go get the podcast, by the way. The podcast, we just dropped an interview with Money. Colin, how come I'm doing all of the singing? Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. He did a virtual signing on WrestleZone's Facebook feed with 80s Wrestling Con. Our interview with him is also up. Audio and video is up. Go check that out with him. We have more interviews dropping from the Best of the Business series, talking about the best people in wrestling that you need to start paying attention to. That is also up, and so much more at WrestleZone.com. Colin, they want to follow you on the Twitter machine. Where do they go?
Follow me at CT_2110, everybody.
Mm-hmm. And you can follow me on the Twitter machine at KevKellam, KevKellam. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Seriously, if you had a good time, just share it. That's all we ask. We don't have a Patreon. We don't have a paywall. I'm not reading ads on the show. Maybe we'll at some point. We'll do the promo code thing. But we're not doing it right now. All right. The way you grow the show is you. I see your names, Steven Chambers, Saul. All right. I see people that spend hours with me every week that I've never met. I love you guys. I appreciate you. If you're watching the show for the first time, you're feeling the love, come on back. All right. Come on back. Make sure those notifications are on. Keep watching. And as always, Colin, Tessier, please don't double down. Tell me what you got to do when you watch wrestling.